And I would like to talk about the challenges in blockchain. What is wrong now? So, I would like to talk about the challenges that face analytics in blockchain, data science in blockchain. There are many challenges. The industry is growing very fast, and now the analytical tools did not keep pace with the growth that we see. What to expect in the near future? Where will the analytics go in the next 1 or 2 years? Where will the analytics go and what services we will see? I consider that the main challenges are the delivery of data in a simplified form and the ability to process the data easily and at ease from any analytical tool. Whether it's Air Python, maybe someone needs to unload in Excel, in any data delivery tool. And the data delivery is cleaned and processed, but more on this later. Further, identification of users, of group of users, companies, some economic entities. That is, the collection of all addresses that are associated with the structures and in real time of determining what this address refers to and what transaction it does. We also have transaction identification. We go to the fact that all transactions that will take place in open blockchains will be identified and we will understand what this transaction is about and what that person did. Whether he bought something or invested somewhere or bought a stake in the company. Social analysis. We will be able to see who, with whom, and how close, in what monetary interaction entered. We can do everything that is done by financial intelligence in an open form. And prediction of what will happen in the near future and what is happening now. That's it. Understanding and determining what is now in the markets. What is happening in the chains now. At the moment, this information is closed. And we will now see how much we can erase if we had this information. I would like to talk about how the blockchain developed and how the data developed. At first, we had only transactions, some simplified contracts in Bitcoin. Then, the system were formed by smart contracts. Either, there is no longer trivial interaction. It's not just money transfers, and accordingly, the data is much more complicated there. And modeling of this data is also not trivial. There are millions of contracts, and each one needs to be delved into if we want to analyze all of this. Next, we have systems that will manage groups of application. Full-fledged applications, such as EOS. And other systems will come into the product, and they will capture the market. It's still difficult for me to describe how difficult it will be to store and process the data and indexes. Also, we have structured data, grounded for the solution of some specific tasks. For example, Steemit on Graphene. Here, we are already processing some existing infrastructure, established indexes. But let's say you need to build 38 indexes in Steemit in order to review the entire data which is there. This is quite a lot and separately about the virtual machine inside, and everything goes to the fact that we will have various data stored. Either Filecoin will be, or IPFS will be used. And this data needs to be modeled to look inside. In some cases, parsing and modeling the interaction between them. This challenge is new and very interesting. If you do it, you can find very much in the next few years. What do we have now according to the data and how do we work with them? Initially, we have API nodes. Each block had API, and now they are, which give this or that data. Usually, this data is given to us in a format that is not very convenient to use for us. And we have to write scripts and upload all these into databases and create them. We have indexes to look at and decide which of the indexes suits us. At the moment, quite a lot of the company is here and trying to build one's own database. Everyone tries to index, for example, Ether. I know 2000 projects in Russia that try to index Ether. Probably 2000 turns out together with Belarus. And this is a ubiquitous activity. It's clear that there will be only a few open platforms that will do this and maybe one or two closed platforms. And we are gradually shifting now to services and tools. The tools that we use to work. Today, Alexei from Bloxy will tell you about a cool instrument for Ether. Probably now the best analytical explorer. And we will gradually shift to delivering the final services and closing the client-specific pain. That's it. We will not create any aggregator and we will not try to twist it, but already do businesses. And when we are already seriously shifted here, we will see all the power of the blockchain and what it really can. And also how we process the data and what effect they have. And we will have quite a lot of services for the end user. Further, when we look at the data and we think what happens to us with this or that asset, with one or another pair, to invest or not to invest, to do the project on this blockchain or not. In this case, we usually show this chart. If we look at this point, we will see a rather high demand. This is the amount of transaction per day. And we see that is experiencing such growth, but in fact, that's all orange. This is one system. That is, this one organization has created such a volume of transactions. And without data cleaning, without processing them deeply, we make false decisions and can make mistakes, as here. For example, there is a mistake in this piece. And we can draw conclusions are not correct. That is, if we really had the volume of transaction in Ether, it was more or less stable. Then on the chart we see some incredible surge. Also we start to think that all open positions and all start to trade this Ether, but in fact it isn't. In fact, everything was calm and still remained. nothing can change. Clearing the data that we see is very important. Now, we all see raw data and make incorrect conclusions in most cases. Now about the identification of users. Very interesting direction. Now very popular. In the coming year we'll see many interesting projects that have already reached the stage of selling. Now, most of the projects in this area are gaining data, doing test services. What I think will be done? Clustering and classification of addresses will be done according to the types of their transactions, for purity and for some other features. Most likely different neural network analyzers will be used. And analysis will be very interesting when we combine the analysis and classification of addresses. Then they classify transactions between these addresses proceeding from the classes obtained. And then we will recurse it. We will come to very interesting conclusions and the analytics will be of sufficient quality. Some guys are collating the list of address in a very active way and essentially monetizing most of the wallets that you are currently using. It will be based on how much they will sell the bundle, your address and login in Google or in Apple. And this is, on the one hand, a very big topic because we do not want our addresses to fall into this list. But with a high probability we're already there if we use this or other services. Also, some guys collect their addresses from the darknet from other points. If we're talking about financial intelligence, then they listen for traffic and identify the addresses that were transmitted. And also, each agency forms dictionaries because they will be the basis for further analysis of the identification of users and the transaction that users generally do. As for the very task of teaching certain models, we need a dataset or training. But while they are not available for public access, but in the near future we can expect that they will appear. And we will already train our models on such datasets, and we will customize all blockchains. And there is still no approved public register for address behavior patterns. You can also expect in the near future the appearance of public patterns. That's this. We will determine that if the address has such patterns and if there are so many incoming with such types of addresses, so many are going from this type of address and within certain limits, then this is most likely the address of the exchange, for example. An exchange of a certain type. And these patterns will be public in the near future, and we will already be on services such as Etherscan. By entering the address, we will already receive that this address had the attributes of such a pattern. What we can say about transactions? The same thing. The analysis of the transaction the interesting because we have it once. But we know when it happens, the addresses between which it occurs, and the behavioral characteristics of these addresses. Based on this, we will somehow identify the types of these addresses, and we will form the patterns of these transactions. All these tasks will lead to the analysis of social graphs, determining who, with whom, and when interacted, how close people are from the point of view of the economy. Maybe they go to the same store or they buy hemp from one supplier or something else. Therefore, when we construct a social graph for one or another type of transaction, we will see quite a lot about the addresses on which we have questions or for which we need to make a conclusion. We will also identify patterns of behavior. These are patterns such as employer-employee, investor-exchange, buyer-seller, and others. Here now, the most interesting. Probably for the sake of what much of this is done. In order to understand and answer yourself to the question, what will happen in the future and what is happening now? Now, all the brokers are asking themselves what is happening now and what do the majors do? Those people who are moving big fortune. Hundreds of millions of dollars, billions of dollars. What is happening to them and what do we do? And also, what the mood of the crowd. And now play these two great vectors. Watch where the crowd is going, where majors are going, and where we should go. Sell, buy, invest in this project or not invest. And generally understand what is happening. Here is an example of such an interesting channel. It's a mixer in Ether. His balance and the limit was 2.5 million Ethers. And you can see how it influenced the market and the cost of Ether. Ether price is green, mixer is blue, and BTC is orange. And we see how the BTC has grown, and Ether somewhere was lying. They were very well paid off by others and then sold, and sold. They withdrew 2 million others from the 1st of January. If you understand that they are selling Ether, then you will already close the position on Ether or prepare for something. For example, shift to other assets. And this is a very interesting approach. That's it, when they analyze the measures. Those measures are difficult to notice. It's difficult to understand that this is one structure. And look at what they are doing now. As they are now moving the $1 billion, where they carried it, go there. They enter the market or they leave the market. That is. This is our service. We are doing the airdrop service now. We want to make a service that in 2 clicks will allow you to airdrop your tokens and notify your project of many users. These are the people you want to notify and involve them in your community or support your community. That's all I wanted to say. You can contact me through GitHub. Telegram of our project and our site you can see on this slide. So, now questions. For the best question, we have a t-shirt. It's only have session action or all speakers? So far only me. Good. I understand that today we cannot take microphones to ask questions. We're still in testing one thing, so we do not have to run around the hall. In general, raise your hands who have questions. So here you are, you can speak. How do you define the mixer? The mixer was defined from the spectral analysis of the total volume of the transaction. If you're interested, I can show the spectrum. If we expand the total volume of transactions by addresses and build a frequency distribution, we will get very different from the normal distribution. That's it. We have one peak, two peaks, three peaks, and so on. And when we read all these addresses, it turns out that they all interact with each other. And if you build these types of addresses, these are the peaks of the addresses, they change. That is by type. Somewhere 100 adders in total, somewhere 200, somewhere 511, and so on. That is here. And simply the script changed the address types in time, and we can see it perfectly. It turns out that if you try to hide much, then there will still be some pattern. It turns out not 100, 200, and 500, and there will be 81, 363, and 22 and a half. Will this be defined by spectral analysis? The majority of the other mixers work according to other principles, and to identify them so simply doesn't work. That is, all the indicators are in the random. If you have questions, you can ask them without a microphone. I also wanted to know such a moment. How much security of my transactions will withstand the processing of information? That is, on the one hand, we are trying to process information, on the other hand, someone wants to hide it. Whose forces will eventually win? Those who hide their transactions? Or will there be some kind of balance? Now everything is going to the fact that blockchains will disperse into two types. One type where our transactions will be transparent and the holders will be open. It will be clear who owned the specific address. The second type will be a completely security blockchain system that will be protected with the current cryptography. The privacy will be protected. In the near future, it's my assessment that these two types of blockchain will be gradually diverge, and as a result we will get a separate system that will be transparent and they will be supported in every way by the states. And the second type will represent systems that will be opaque and against them the states will fight. But the second type will have a number of advantages. They will all be cross-border. In fact, transfers will be free across borders, and in the first type, there will be some fees applied. What is the effect of ups and downs on community interest? I believe that the fall is good for us. The fact that a little bit of hype has gone down and now there is not so much crazy money, because what we saw there at the end of the year, guys there with millions of dollars tried to put them somewhere. Now somehow everything is simpler, and everyone understands that the future is for technology. That banks in the modern form are not needed by anyone. They're already like an obsolete piece. And the third thing, the blockchain will replace is the banks. Second, it will replace especially the functions of the state. But the third one, we will see what will happen. Everything will be very interesting. Good projects and very active. They are being actively funded. We see not the growth of a number of projects, but the growth of their quality. Still have questions? And let's ask the questions into the microphone because you cannot hear. What is the mixer you're talking about? And what are the main goals and principles of work there?
Миксер– это система, при помощи которой мы берем эфирки.
Well, Mixer is a system by which we take an others of wide range of users and upload them in a transaction. And then you throw the transaction on one address, then it parallelized, and from the other end it also parallels. And so it's mixed, that is, the address receives two transactions and leaves two. Well, roughly speaking, and so it works. As a result, it turns out that you cannot track where the money came from. If this one address or not, it's a whole system. There are about 15% of the addresses from the other they used in the system. A complex system. Yes, it is. More questions? Tell me please, what is mostly contaminated with unclean data? What are the factors? These are the actions of the founders themselves, who are doing everything to raise the capitalization of the system they have created. They essentially come up these transactions. They are held. They show that everything is growing there. Pay a fee to the miners, yield their miners. Then you have a system, like a mixer. Where do you generate, based on the logic of the system, a sufficiently large number of transactions and different patterns. You think that it's permissible for transactions with real money, but it turns out that these transactions were generally about another, not about what you thought. And it's good to separate transaction types and allocate one type of transaction from another. Roughly speaking, knowing the patterns of behavior, for example, of some mixers, I can specifically do my transactions similar to the behavior in the mixer. And I can hide my real transactions by the fact that I will adjust the behavior, which will then be treated as an unreal transaction. It's more like what someone throws back and forth there. Although in fact I'm throwing something important, but I specifically hide this, adjusting to the system that is looking for me. Yes, it may be. Let's applause to Sergey's presentation. It's a very good report.